The history of family detention in the United States. In 1984, the first private detention center opens in Houston, Texas, by the Corrections Corporation of America, holding immigrant detainees. 1989 and 1990. Immigration Naturalization Service sets up enforcement on Central American refugees in the Rio Grande Valley. Men, women, and children are detained in 6 detention centers in South Texas. INS targeted Central American refugees fleeing civil war and prevented them from leaving the border region to pursue asylum claims elsewhere. In response to the influx, INS opened so-called soft detention centers to house women and children, while men were kept in temporary tents. Many were deported before Congress granted the refugees special temporary status. 1994. January 1st, the North American Free Trade Agreement NAFTA is signed, which reduces trade barriers. As a result, U.S. corn exports to Mexico increase 18-fold, and thousands of Mexican farmers, unable to compete with U.S. producers, are displaced from their lands and migrate to nearby cities or the United States. The U.S. detains 5,532 people on any given day. 1996. The Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act is signed into law by President Clinton. The law dramatically changes immigration policy by making immigrants convicted of crimes deportable, even long-term legal residents convicted of nonviolent offenses. IRA also implemented a system of mandatory detention for immigrants fighting deportation. Other laws passed in 1996, such as the Welfare Reform Act, reduced social benefits that immigrants can receive. 2001. Following September 11th, the FBI and INS indiscriminately arrest and detain at least 1,200 South Asians, Arabs, and North Africans. INS detains a limited number of families at the New Berks County Family Detention Center in Pennsylvania. In 2003, the Department of Homeland Security replaces INS with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This change shifts minor immigration violations to a national security priority and results in increased levels of immigrant prosecution, detention, and deportation. In D. Moore v. Kim, the Supreme Court holds for the first time since Japanese internment during World War II that lawful permanent residents can be denied due process and detained without cause. Immigrants with criminal convictions, including lawful permanent residents with relatively minor crimes, must be detained throughout their deportation proceedings. 2004. The Immigration Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act mandates 40,000 detention beds by 2010, a tripling of detention capacity. Operation Endgame sets out a 10-year goal to, quote, remove all removable aliens from the United States, end quote. Thousands are detained by ICE on any given day. Over 166,400 are deported. 2005. Operation Streamline begins in select districts to criminally prosecute immigrants for unauthorized entry into the U.S., sentencing them between 15 to 180 days in prison. In November 2005, ICE's Secure Border Initiative also ended the so-called catch and release policy, which allowed non-Mexican immigrants to later appear before an immigration court. This policy shift dramatically increased the immigrant detention population, especially in areas along the U.S.-Mexico border. The increasing number of immigrant detainees pushed the cost of detention and removal to $1.2 billion in 2005. 2006. Several detention centers open. The Hutto Detention Center, a former medium security prison, opens in Taylor, Texas to hold children and their families awaiting immigration hearings. A 2,000-bed tent city detention center in Raymondville, Texas also opens. By the end of the year, Texans United for Families forms and organizes its first vigil outside of Hutto calling for the end of family detention. 2007. The ACLU and the University of Texas Immigration Law Clinic files litigation claiming Hutto violates the Flores v. Meese standards for detention of children. The lawsuit is settled in August, improving conditions for those held at Hutto. However, the facility remains controversial, drawing protests of up to 500 people and significant media scrutiny. In October, Management and Training Corporation contracted with ICE for a 1,000-bed expansion to the Raymondville, Texas facility. 2008. The SAVE Act is introduced into Congress, which calls for the construction of more Hutto-like family detention centers. During the same year, ICE also independently solicits 3 more family detention facilities. The Washington Post reports 82 deaths in ICE custody since its creation in 2003. Texans United for Families and other organizers throughout the country continue the fight to end immigrant detention.